also I had a beautiful moment when I first released my first book. I was sent on tour by the government up the very north of Western Australia in the Aboriginal Indigenous communities. And this was pretty well straight after coming back from Olympics. So, I still had my six-pack on my stomach at that time, Wayne. And I'm still, sit-ups, push-ups, eat this amount of food and all that sort of stuff.
I know where you're getting at, because I was going to ask you a question about this. Keep going. It's about the Indigenous lady?
Yeah. Munya Andrews. And she... We had this beautiful moment where we were with kids just basically sitting in the sand, and Munya told her story and then I told my story. And I thought to myself, oh, I'm so wrong. I am so wrong in this environment. These kids are teaching me a lot more, and I had to really reconsider this world of discipline and all the rest of it, because when you're so disciplined, you sort of lose your creativity, you lose your life experience, and you're sort of all but doing the equivalent of just intellect. You lose it, you're blocking it out. So at that particular night when we sort of came back to our rooms, Munya said that to me, Sally, creativity is like a muscle. Now, you've spent your whole life building your muscles, so you'll understand this. We're all born with a certain amount of creativity, but if you don't use that muscle, it goes.
True.
And you've got to work on it, even if that muscle's small right now. Build it. Keep building it. Keep building your creativity muscle like you've built your abs and your quads and all the rest of it. And I have never forgotten it. In fact, of all the fantastic people I've learned from in my life, that's right at the top of the list for me. Yeah. It was, even right now, I'm just covered in goosebumps thinking about that moment, because our life these days is so disciplined and so wrong or right or judged or whatever the case is, that just wake up every day and keep building our creativity muscle, because we were born with it.
We are.
Yes, and it was, I'm just about in tears here, Wayne. It's so important to me.
It is. No, I understand that, because when I taught for so many years, and I would see these people, these past students, they've become friends now. And what you realise is that if you don't exercise that muscle, people that are creative, that's food for the soul for them. If they don't feed that soul, it's so easy then to slip into things like depression, anxiety. And I've noticed that with creative people that aren't exercising that muscle, and it could be something simple like take a photograph, write a one-liner, something. If you don't do that for, say, a few weeks, a few months, you start to get affected in other ways. You start thinking negatively, you start to get a bit anxious about things. And I realised that about myself. Wayne, I need to tell stories in one way or another. If it's writing, if it's podcasting, like we're talking about stories now, taking a photo. If I don't do that, I start to slip. And suddenly a bit of insecurity starts to come in. And really it's because I'm just not exercising that muscle. So I totally understand that lady that said that to you. I was really curious when I read that. I was like, oh, what is it? What is that, that happened up there?
Do you know, in the human body, we know that, from the Olympic pathway, that we do gym work pretty well every day on top of our normal training, for instance. And we're told our body drops off 70% of our strength within 2 weeks.
What?
70%, and that's a female body. A male body doesn't drop off at that rate, but female body, we drop off 70% of our strength within 2 weeks. Imagine if we had a measure like that for our drop off in creativity over time. Because what you're saying
that's
is
scary.
It is scary, and this is why sport is so scientific. But the creative world, we need to know more about it, and we as a community, we've got to fish deep and dig deep and find out a lot more about what creativity does for us as individuals and as a community.